If you spent any time living in Seattle, you know it's not a cheap place to live. But many in our area who care about urban issues hope to change that. Michael Eliason is the author of Building for People, Designing Livable, Affordable, Low-Carbon Communities. And he's got an author event tonight at the Elliott Bay Book Company. But first, he's here at New Day. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so tell me about this book and why it was so important for you to write it.
So I worked in Germany for a couple of years and realized that the way that we're designing housing and cities in the US is drastically different, radically different from other places. And it's everything from how we access our units, so stairs actually play a fundamental aspect. In the US, all of our multifamily housing now is like living in a hotel. You have a corridor down the middle, really small units on either sides, really large buildings. In Europe, even Asia, South America, the median building tends to be relatively small, maybe 6, 10, 20 units. Here in Seattle, we're seeing buildings that are 200, 300 units, so radically larger, not a very good economic and social mix of residents, right? Not a good unit mix typology as well. Like if you're a family, it's really difficult to live in these kinds of units. So I really wanted to highlight some of the differences and talk about the reasons why our housing is different. And then it kind of scales from there. It's not just that our housing is different, but how our land use evolves, how we grow around new transit stations. We don't have a lot of parks and open space. We're not very good about putting like schools and daycare in these kinds of communities. And in the European context, there's a lot of this integration so that you can live like a day-to-day life without having to drive everywhere. I'm not saying we have to give up cars, right? The concept is really making it so that you can get around daily without driving anywhere. Maybe you want to drop off your kid at school or something. And so just highlighting that, there are differences and there are different things that we could be doing to make places that are more ecological and from a livability standpoint, I think a higher quality.
Yeah, more walkable, and we can learn from all these different places, which is amazing. So what changes could be made to make it more affordable with our housing arrangements?
So I think a big one is just understanding how we plan our cities, right? How we zone for our cities is a big one. So in a lot of the US and a lot of US cities, and Seattle is the same, most of the city is zoned for single family housing. The state has changed the legislation, so with HB 1110, we could do small plexes and 4 or 6 unit buildings. So I think broadening kind of the zoning around transit is a big one, so opening up more areas, unlocking more areas. Also just investing in more affordable types of housing. I serve on the board of the Seattle Social Housing Developer. Our goal is to build cross-class mixed income communities, so opportunities for that also become greater when we have more land capacity to do that. Another really funny one is in basically the rest of the world outside of the US and Canada, the typical urban housing is a single stair building. So you have one stair, one elevator core, and just a couple of units around it. You can get daylight on 2, even 3 sides, right? So it's like living in a ranch house or something like you would see in Seattle. And so it's almost a direct substitution for that. Whereas here, we don't really get those opportunities. And these buildings end up being more smaller and more compact, but because you have daylight on multiple sides, like it doesn't feel like you're living in this cramped space. So you can make do with like a smaller unit, maybe like 1,200 square feet or 1,000 square feet for a 3-bedroom. An apartment here, because of our building codes and the double loaded corridor, ends up being significantly larger. So you're having to pay a lot more money, either rent or to buy, versus that condition.
Wow, so interesting. And I want to talk about too, I understand planning would lead to better public health outcomes. So talk to me about that a little more.
Yeah, in the US, we tend to focus most of our dense housing on arterials, on highways, right? These are really toxic places, they're loud. So from a public health standpoint, air pollution, noise pollution, cardiovascular effects, dementia, so designing places, planning places that take these into account and try to mitigate this. Maybe we don't put the transit station directly on the highway or allow denser housing off of arterials so that people can live places that are quiet, that are more amenable to like living, a high quality life. Access to transit is still there, but you're not directly focused on it. And so that's a big portion of the book. My wife works in public health, is highlighting that the way that we plan our cities can take public health better into account. And at the same time, like space for trees, space for nature, right? This is climate adaptation. Access to open space is great for your mental health as well. So it's really about kind of changing that paradigm.
Wow. What do you hope the takeaway for people that read this book, pick it up, is?
Really that we can build a better world, right? the way we're going right now, the status quo in development and housing and neighborhoods is not that great, that we can build high quality places that are a substitute for living in detached houses, that allow people to live without a car or without using a car as much, and to still have affordable housing, to still have access to nature and open space and ecology all kind of combined in a really effective way. And so from a policy standpoint, I think this is really what the book is intended to do, is to help make those policy changes so we can get there.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Michael. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And just a reminder, Michael is holding an author event tonight, Tuesday, March 4th at the Elliott Bay Book Company. Check their website for more information.